The first time Scarlett noticed him, she thought he was just another wealthy man passing through the rooftop restaurant, someone who came for the skyline views, the champagne, and the feeling of floating above the ordinary world. She was used to them, men with sharp suits, bored expressions, and eyes that skimmed over her as if she were part of the decor. But he didn't look bored, and he didn't look away. He sat at the far end of the terrace, always choosing the same table, always arriving near sunset, when the sky softened into honey light. He never asked for the menu. He never invited company. He simply sat there with a glass of something amber, watching the city, and watching her. Scarlett tried to ignore it. She'd taught herself long ago not to read into glances from men with power. They lived in a world she had no access to, a world she'd only ever served, not belonged to. But the way he looked at her was different, not hungry, not arrogant, not entitled. More like curious and controlled. Controlled in a way that felt dangerous. Her co-workers whispered about him, exchanging theories over the espresso machine. "That's Adrian Vale," one of the bartenders murmured. "Billionaire, tech empire. People say he doesn't date, doesn't party, doesn't even smile." Scarlett hadn't looked up from polishing glasses. "Sounds delightful." "No, I mean, he doesn't do anything. He works, he disappears, he works again. Except now he shows up here, every evening, and only on your shifts." Scarlett felt heat crawl up her neck, but she refused to let her mind wander into places that would only break her later. Beautiful men with impossible wealth didn't notice waitresses like her. Whatever he was looking at, it wasn't her. Still, her steps changed when she passed him. Just a little, hardly noticeable. But if anyone had been listening closely, they would have heard the change in her breathing too. Tonight, the wind was warm, the kind of night that held its breath with secrets. The terrace was packed, couples leaning close, businessmen laughing too loudly, tourists taking pictures of the skyline. Scarlett moved through the tables with practiced grace, balancing plates and smiles. When she reached his table, she didn't even have to ask. He handed her the empty glass without breaking eye contact. "Another?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. He nodded once. "Please." His voice was smooth low, reaching, the kind that settled under her skin far too easily. She walked back to the bar with the empty glass, but she could feel him behind her, following the movement of her hands, the shift of her shoulders, the fall of her hair. She pretended not to notice. Minutes later, she returned with the new drink. The wind brushed against her dress as she approached, lifting the hem slightly. She felt it tug at her, playful and light, and she reached down to smooth it, but her fingers caught only air. The fabric slipped, not dramatically, not in a way that would have embarrassed her in front of other guests, but just enough to expose the soft curve of her shoulder and the delicate strap beneath. Her breath caught. And that was the moment Adrian Vale, silent, composed, unreadable, lost the control he wore like a second skin. His jaw tightened first, then his eyes lowered, not in disrespect, not in hunger, but in something deeper, something he seemed to fight against and fail. He inhaled too sharply, his fingers curling slightly against the table. His gaze swept over her shoulder, over the slip of fabric, then dragged itself back up to meet her eyes, as if every inch between them burned. Scarlett felt her heart leap into her throat. She tugged her dress back into place quickly, but the air between them had already shifted, charged, humming like the city lights around them. Sorry, she whispered, though she didn't know why she apologized. Adrian shook his head once, slowly, deliberately. Don't apologize. His voice was rougher now, unpolished, almost human. It wasn't you. She swallowed hard. Is everything all right? He hesitated, just long enough for her pulse to throb in her ears. Then he leaned back, as if trying to reclaim the armor he wore so well. Yes, he said, everything is fine. But it wasn't. She could feel it. Anyone could have felt it. Something in him had cracked open, and he was fighting to shut it again. Scarlett set the drink down and stepped away, pretending not to notice, the way his gaze followed her until she disappeared behind the columns. She steadied herself against the counter, trying to ignore the echo of heat rolling through her chest. She'd seen men desire before. It usually felt heavy, invasive, suffocating. But this whatever had flickered across Adrian's face felt like someone who'd been holding back so long forgot what it meant to let anything slip. Her coworker nudged her. You okay? You're flushed. Scarlett forced a smile. It's warm tonight. But warmth had nothing to do with it. When the night finally quieted, Scarlett walked back to check the far table. Adrian was gone. His glass was empty. His chair was pushed in neatly. And on the edge of the table lay something she hadn't expected. A small black card. No name, no logo, no contact. Just a handwritten note in clean, precise ink. Tomorrow, same time. Her breath hitched. He had never left a note before. And he had never broken his composure like that. Scarlett pressed her fingers lightly to the card. Her pulse throbbed beneath her skin. She should throw it away. She should pretend it meant nothing. She should remind herself that men like him didn't belong in her world. But the truth settled into her bones, warm and terrifying. For the first time, Adrian Vale wasn't watching her from afar. He was asking her to step closer. The next evening, Scarlett arrived earlier than usual, earlier than she'd ever admit. She wore the same uniform, nothing special, nothing intentionally different, but somehow she felt different beneath it. Every breath felt suspended, every step too aware of itself. She told herself she was being ridiculous. He might not come. He might have written the note in a moment of impulse and regretted it as soon as he left. But when the sun began sinking behind the skyscrapers, painting the sky in molten gold, she saw him. Adrian Vale stepped onto the terrace like the night before had never ended. Same tailored suit, same composed expression, same impossible presence that made the conversations around him soften without him saying a word. Except tonight, he didn't choose the far table. He walked straight toward her. Scarlett froze, tray in hand, her heartbeat kicking hard against her ribs. She expected him to stop a few feet away, to maintain the polite distance billionaires used with staff. But Adrian stopped closer than she'd ever expected, close enough that she could smell the warm, clean scent of his cologne. Something subtle and expensive. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. She blinked. I work here. He almost smiled. You came early. Scarlett felt heat climb up her throat. And you noticed? Everything about you is difficult not to notice, he admitted, his voice low, as if the confession was meant for her alone. Her breath faltered. Adrian glanced at the table behind her, the one he always used, then shook his head. Not there, he said softly. Walk with me. Scarlett hesitated. I can't leave the floor. I'm on shift. His eyes sharpened, but not with irritation, with restraint, deep, deliberate restraint. Then just talk to me, here, for one moment. She nodded, unsure why. Adrian exhaled, as if steadying himself. What happened last night when your dress... His voice caught slightly, and the smallest crack of truth slipped through. I don't lose control, ever, but you. He looked at her like she was the only real thing in the shimmering city. You undid me. Scarlett's pulse thundered. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I know, he said, stepping just a breath closer. That's what makes it worse. The wind brushed between them, lifting a strand of her hair. Adrian's hand twitched, like he wanted to reach for it, but forced himself not to. I shouldn't be here, he murmured. I shouldn't want this. Scarlett whispered, Then why are you? His eyes met hers, hot, unguarded, devastating. Because I've spent years keeping my distance from the world, and one moment with you broke everything I built to keep myself untouched. Her breath shivered. And now, he added softly, I can't seem to look anywhere else. Scarlett felt the ground tilt beneath her, the city spinning quietly around them. Adrian, she whispered. He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. The way he looked at her felt like a touch all its own, dangerous, tender, and unmistakably real.